do you feel about the OGs in the game as far as leadership? Do you think that they let the younger generation down, or they set a good enough example? I don't feel the OGs was really hands on. They were more so like, follow my lead, just watch what I'm doing, right?
That's exactly the blueprint of the Andre Harrell Puff era.
How do you feel about that blueprint?
I don't think it works long term, especially when the OG wants to be the youngin. I actually just said this on the 90s episode of the Kenny Burns show. And I was, and we could talk about this another time, but I was talking about how the West Coast, East Coast beef set us on a trajectory to forget about ownership. And it became all about materialism. And it's a whole science. I had that. But I also think that when Andre went to Uptown, from Uptown to Motown, he wanted to be more like Puff instead of be him. And with the iconic brand like Motown, all he had to do was put the Uptown flavor on Motown and make hit records. That was his blueprint. You know what I'm saying? But no, he wanted to be hot. And he wanted to make billboards and have them all over the New York City trains. And God rest his dead, I used to talk to him about this shit all the time and have to remind him. But I think to answer your question, the OGs want to be young. They don't respect where they are in life and are comfortable with being senior. And there's nothing wrong with being senior, because with seniority comes knowledge. With seniority comes experience. Things that, just like I would call you when I first met you, Rashad, I know you was like, who is this light-skinned motherfucker trying to tell me? You know what I'm saying? But it was more like, yo, I see you. I see what you're trying to do. Here's my experience. I never put shackles on you from like making you feel like, yo, you got to listen to me. I never did that. I would only call you and Troy and be like, yo, I see y'all. I see what you're doing. And these are some of the things you want to think about. And that's how OGs should lead.
Yeah. Is it insecurity why they don't give that advice? Is it lack of financial stability? Like, why do you think? And then, because when the young guns come up, they don't want to hear nothing the OGs have to say and they get mad. But it's like, you didn't give no game until it was too late. So why do you think that is?
I think it's insecurity, because a lot of people don't have what they front like they have. You know what I mean? Like the money's not matching, like the car doesn't match the wife and the wife doesn't match the crib and the kids. You know what I mean? The whole thing is faux. It's a whole social experiment, and they in their feelings because they don't have what they have. Now, if you think about what my generation made the industry do for what they did to the Cold Crush, y'all are 10x in that. You know what I'm saying? And the opportunities socially and digitally that were not there for us are happening. But we're not supposed to motherfucking be upset about it. We're supposed to do what I do with y'all. Like, you're supposed to empower and support, because guess who's gonna keep the old heads around? The young motherfuckers. And then a lot of these young motherfuckers are also too doing the dumbest shit on the planet and don't want nobody to tell them nothing. That's the only disconnect, I think, in generations that's different. These youngins are getting money for being dumb. These youngins are getting money for showing up doing stupid shit, and they're trying to outdo the stupid shit. But when someone tells them, you're hating. No, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to get caught up. Like, you know, it's like the whole gangster shit. Like, everybody has to talk about gangbanging. Everybody got to do lean and smoke weed and do cocaine. Every girl got to go to Brazil or Colombia or Detroit to get the jobs. Like, what? Yeah, I'm not serious about Detroit doing it, but that was the joke. But the point I'm trying to make, like, this is where we are. And so culturally, we really have a problem.
So let me ask you this. I'm interested.
Did I answer your question, Rashad?
For sure.
Okay.
I'm interested to hear this East Coast, West Coast theory. But before that, Little Duval, put a tweet out the other day. I don't know if you saw it. And you're from DC, but you really from Atlanta. Like, you rep Atlanta. Like,
I
like Atlanta,
like both, but yes.
But you're like Atlanta,
Yeah.
You're like Andre 3000 in Atlanta. So he put a tweet out and said, DC women, which you're from DC, DC women are just as fine as Atlanta women, but they actually have real jobs. I'm paraphrasing it. They actually have real jobs. And they don't just go to the club trying to get bottle service. Pretty much saying, like, they actually got a good head on their shoulders in Atlanta. And I kind of didn't agree with that. I think Atlanta gets a lot of hate. I think Atlanta gets, now there's a lot of silly shit that happens in Atlanta, let's be honest. But I think that Atlanta gets a lot of hate unnecessarily, especially from Black people, which is weird because, hate it or love it, Atlanta is still the mecca of Black America.
No question. It's a new chocolate city, which DC was the chocolate city.
So how do you feel about his comment, and how do you feel about what I think that Atlanta gets unnecessary hate from Black America outside of Atlanta?
Yeah, great question. First of all, Lil Duval is way more intelligent than people.
Yeah, he gives off.
He's definitely smart like a fox.
Mm-hmm.
And the things he regurgitates are the things that he wants to bring attention to. The things he doesn't say, he wants people thinking about why he's not saying it. But to answer your question about DC women versus Atlanta women, I think Washington, DC was raised to come up having a job in the government specifically and having this type of life, right? When you're born into something, it's like being a Redskins fan. Now, Commanders, I can't help it. I hate it. I want to really just bust my gun and just go crazy. Then half my city is DC, Dallas Cowboys fans, and it drives me crazy. I do not understand how you were born in DC and you're rooting.
Wait, for real?
Oh no, it's unbelievable.
That's crazy. I know that.
It's unbelievable. I don't want to bust my gun anymore. But the point is, yes, women in DC were, and especially in my era, they were kind of trained to grow up, work for the government, be self-sufficient, and this, that, and the third. I'm not saying that didn't happen in Atlanta at all. I'm just giving you what DC is. Now, Atlanta is a place where it is a social experiment now. It stood on the shoulders of civil rights and will always. Mm-hmm. It came into an era in the 90s where Criss Cross sold 4 million records. LaFace panted, with in 92, they sold 4 million records, the biggest in rap history. But that was Atlanta for real. That wasn't LaFace planting the flag and other people like myself coming here and building our careers. But then I don't think Atlanta's identity was in music as far as like the entire culture. I don't think Criss Cross was culture. The biggest thing culturally to ever come out of Atlanta started with Outkast and then went to Jeezy and Tip and then, in that era. And then it got more popularity and grew, right? So I don't think the women in Atlanta we're kind of put into positions because there's no industry here like the government in DC.
Yes, the infrastructure isn't there.
The infrastructure is not here for jobs. Let's say like the government job, right? Where you can go from 1 to 13, have these benefits, retire. Like that doesn't. Georgia Power is here. You know what I mean? And now it's entrepreneurs everywhere, and there's amazing cuisine and food and all the things, but I think that's historically the difference between DC women and Atlanta women. Not making either better. I'm just saying.
What about the hate?
I have to be clear on this.
What about the hate? What about the hate from just Atlanta, period? Is it warranted?
The hate from what's the question with that?
People hate on Atlanta. They say Atlanta's the home of scammers. They say Atlanta is
the only reason we get that tag is because we was the only city open during the pandemic. That shit was not like that.
They say everybody's fronting. They say everybody's fronting. They got rented cars. They got rented houses. Yeah. It's not real. It's Hollywood. Like the
spiel
everywhere. I don't think that's just Atlanta. Atlanta is significant because again of the history and why we're here. Atlanta's significant because of the industry we created. Now, we talk about the government with the women in DC. We've created a music business. People come here and have come here for their entire lives to make hit records.
To break it.
Period. Now, not only we shooting at Assembly, which just got a 25-year lease from Universal. We're shooting Fight Night, the $1 Million Heist at Assembly. Like without Tyler Perry, that building wouldn't be built. Tyler has nothing to do with Assembly, but you get what I'm saying. So there's industry here. We are the most richest, blackest city in the motherfucking world as far as I'm talking about culture. You know what I'm talking about? And then we have a lot of opportunity here now via those industries for jobs. So I would say that is it Generation Z that's now? Is it Z?
Yeah,
believe so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, well, if whatever it is, excuse us if we don't know the fact, but I think it's Z. They actually have a blueprint of industry, but when these women that are adults now didn't have it was music business. But the music business was also becoming show your ass and titties to be heard. It was also coming. You look at women's rap. Look at women's rap alone, and what's happening with that. That's not an industry that's going to sustain. You're going to crash and burn. You know what I'm saying? Just like hip hop for men, we are crashing and burning. So it's not, you know what I mean? And then because we've been the most misogynistic humans on the planet, but women are as misogynistic as men and using sex as a weapon, not freedom or revolution, or we're making these statements. No, we just want to be hoes.
Is that the doing of the rappers or the doing of the labels? If we're going to be honest, though.
No, I'm with you, Ian. Great fucking question. But it's our fault. We can't put nothing on them after 96. After 96, we saw money like we never seen in the music business, but we still let them have control. After the East Coast, West Coast thing, nothing was the same. Nothing was the same. It was all materialism, money, and how much can I get? Guess what? I'm gonna keep doubling down on that because the deals, little do y'all know, the deals were based on, you know what I'm saying, like the big 3, 4. I mean, if you look at the early 90s, it was Dre and Suge, then Puff, then Jay, right? And then you had other sprouts here and there, right?
Yeah.
We talking about the big 3 of the 90s? That's the big 3.
So what's your take on this East Coast, West Coast?
Yeah, tell us more.
You're hip hop heads, so I'm interested to hear this theory.
Yeah, I just think materialism took over to the point of destruction. We don't have any value in music because we never owned anything. So when Universal decides they want to fucking fire over 1,000 people to save $271 million, we have no control over that.
Yeah, that's insane.
But if you look at what Russell Simmons started, but Dre perfected, then Puff actually did an amazing job with hiring all the black executive superheroes that ever existed. But it was never enough for them to grow within an ecosystem. Think about it. Would Rick Ross own all that he brought to the table in spirits and outside of music if Puff gave him ownership in Ciroc when it was time to give him ownership? We lost train of thought of ownership. We do want an independent, and we're gonna say fuck whoever to get it. But after the East Coast, West Coast beat, we forgot about who we were. We forgot about the charts, how many hits we had on the radio, how we were running culture. It was not even just you couldn't breathe without black music. And then if you look at where we are now, to Ian's point, the smart motherfuckers, and because mind you, Napster happened in 99, early 2000. Yeah. It changed the music business as we know it. So if you look at what streaming is, if you look at all these fucking ringtone ass fucking artists on fucking TikTok, all this shit was designed. This shit was part of the play, but we weren't smart enough to take advantage of it. Because guess what ain't happening in 96? I'm just keep going to 96. Without Suge and Puff, and I'm not big shout to Nelly, big shout to Ludacris, big shout to whoever came out in the 90s. But if it wasn't for them and the type of money they were making, it was unreal.
It was a printing press, yo, for Jimmy.
And so my point is, like, they literally started, it was a money thing. It was a money grab. What is music now? A money grab. But the problem is, to what point? Self-destruction? Because that's where we are.